I pushed open the apartment door at 11:30, dragging my suitcase behind me. The lights were off. I expected silence, maybe the hum of the refrigerator. Instead, I found her. She was sitting on the couch in the dark, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. The glow from the streetlight outside cut across her face, and I could see she'd been crying. My stomach dropped. "Hey," I said quietly, setting my bag down. "You okay?" She looked up at me like she'd been waiting hours for me to come home. Maybe she had been. "I didn't know when you'd be back." Her voice was barely above a whisper. I moved closer, cautious. We'd been roommates for 8 months. Cordial, polite. We split the bills, kept to ourselves, exchanged pleasantries over morning coffee. But this wasn't normal. What happened? She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "I can't sleep in my room anymore." The words hung between us, heavy and strange. "What do you mean you can't?" "I just can't." Her voice cracked. "Please don't ask me to explain. Not yet." I saw her hands trembling against her knees. Something had broken in the week I'd been gone. Something that made this composed, distant woman look utterly shattered. I nodded slowly. "Okay, what do you need?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I realized I'd just agreed to something neither of us understood yet. "You can take my room," I offered. "I'll sleep out here." She shook her head quickly. "No, I don't want to be alone." The admission seemed to cost her something. I could see it in the way she looked away immediately, like she'd revealed too much. "All right," I said. "Then you're staying with me." 20 minutes later, she was on the floor of my bedroom, wrapped in blankets I'd pulled from the hallway closet. I'd offered her the bed twice. She'd refused both times, insisting the floor was fine, that she just needed to not be in that room. I turned off the light and lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence felt enormous. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness. "You don't have to thank me. I know we're not exactly close." I almost laughed. "No, we're not." Another long silence. I could hear her breathing, uneven and shallow. She wasn't sleeping. Neither was I. "It started 3 nights ago," she finally said. Her voice was so quiet I had to strain to hear it. "I kept hearing something. In the walls, maybe. Or the closet. I don't know. Like scratching, like footsteps." She paused. "I know how that sounds." It sounded terrifying, actually. Our building was old, but it was solid. We'd never had problems before. "Did you check?" "Every night." Her voice got smaller. "There's nothing there. But I can't. I can't make myself believe that when I'm alone in the dark." I rolled onto my side, looking down at where she lay on the floor. I could just make out her silhouette, curled on her side, facing away from me. "Something else happened," I said gently. "Didn't it?" The silence stretched so long I thought she wouldn't answer. My ex called. Each word sounded like it was being pulled from somewhere deep. After 8 months of nothing, he just called. Wanted to know where I lived now. Said he missed me. Said he'd made a mistake. My chest tightened. I didn't know her well, but I knew enough. I'd seen the way she triple-checked the locks, the way she never mentioned her past, the careful distance she kept from everyone. "Did you tell him?" "No." She let out a shaky breath, but it brought everything back. The fear, the feeling of being watched. I couldn't stay in that room alone after that. I kept thinking I heard him outside. Every sound became him trying to get in. I moved without thinking, sliding down from the bed onto the floor beside her. She turned toward me, and in the dim light from the window, I could see fresh tears on her face. "Hey," I said softly. "He doesn't know where you are. You're safe here." "Am I?" She wasn't asking about my apartment. She was asking about something bigger, whether she'd ever really be safe, whether the fear would ever stop. "Yeah," I said, surprised by how much I meant it. "You are." She looked at me for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Vulnerability, yes, but also something else I couldn't quite name. "I didn't think you'd care," she whispered. "We barely talk. I care." The words came out rougher than I intended. Her hand was inches from mine on the floor between us. I could have reached out, touched her fingers. closed that small distance. Instead, I just stayed there beside her in the darkness, listening to her breathing slowly even out, feeling something fundamental shift between us. She fell asleep before I did, her face finally relaxed, and I lay awake watching her, realizing I'd never really looked at her before. Not like this. Not like someone I was already starting to need. 3 days turned into a week. She never went back to her room. The first morning, I found her making coffee for both of us, still in the oversized t-shirt she'd slept in. Her hair was messy from the floor, and she looked softer than I'd ever seen her. "Good morning, roommate," she said, handing me a mug. "Which one of us is the roommate now?" I asked, taking a sip. She'd remembered how I liked it. 2 sugars, no cream. She grinned. "I guess we're both homeless." It became a routine. She'd steal my shirts to sleep in, because they were warmer than her thin pajamas. I'd wake up to find her curled up in a ball of blankets on my floor, looking peaceful for the first time since I'd known her. During the day, we started occupying the same spaces. She'd read on the couch while I worked at the kitchen table. We'd bump into each other in the narrow hallway, and instead of the awkward sidestepping we used to do, she'd put her hand on my arm to steady herself. "Excuse me," she'd say, but her hand would linger. The touching started small. Her fingers brushing mine when she handed me things. Her shoulder against mine while we watched TV. Nothing that couldn't be explained as accidental. But the way she looked at me was changing. "You know," she said one evening, stealing popcorn from my bowl. "For someone who barely talked to me for 8 months, you're surprisingly good company." "Surprisingly? Don't let it go to your head." She threw a piece of popcorn at me. "You're still weird." "I'm weird? You're the one who's been living on my bedroom floor for a week. Your bedroom floor is very comfortable, thank you." She stretched out dramatically across the couch. "Much better than my room. About that?" "Nope." She held up a hand. "We're not talking about my room. New rule. Since when do you make the rules?" She sat up, raising an eyebrow. "Since I became your favorite roommate. You're my only roommate. Still your favorite." I couldn't argue with that logic, or with the way she was smiling at me. Like we shared some secret joke. The nights were different too. Instead of the tense silence of that first evening, we talked. About everything except the obvious. Why she was really here, what was happening between us. "Can I ask you something?" she said one night, lying on her side facing me. "Shoot. Why didn't you ever try to get to know me? Before all this, I thought about it. You seemed like you wanted to be left alone." "I did." She paused. "I was scared you'd be like him, pushy, demanding, always wanting something from me, and now?" Her eyes met mine in the darkness. "Now I'm scared you're not like anyone else." The air between us felt charged. I could hear my heartbeat in the silence. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away, just looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Want and fear mixed together. "I don't know yet," she whispered. I reached out, almost without thinking, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned into the touch. "I guess we'll figure it out," I said. She smiled, soft and uncertain. "I guess we will." But as she fell asleep that night, I lay awake wondering what would happen when we did figure it out. And whether I was ready for the answer. What do you think is really keeping her from going back to her room? Drop a comment and let me know. I love hearing your theories. It was the rain that changed everything. Thursday night brought the kind of storm that made the whole building feel like it was underwater. Lightning turned my bedroom white every few seconds, and thunder shook the windows. She was sitting up, knees drawn to her chest, watching the storm through my window. "I used to love thunderstorms," she said quietly. "Used to?" She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "He came over during a storm like this, the night everything fell apart." I sat up in bed, something in her voice making my chest tight. "You don't have to. I want to." She turned to look at me. "I think I need to." The next flash of lightning showed me her face. determined but fragile. We'd been together for 2 years. I thought we were happy. I thought. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I thought he loved me the way I loved him. Thunder rolled overhead. She flinched. That night, I found messages on his phone. From her. From 3 other women. Pictures. Plans to meet while I was at work. Her voice got quieter. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it, just looked at me like I was stupid for not knowing. God, I breathed. He said I was too trusting, too naive, that I'd never learn to protect myself. She pulled the blanket closer. Then he told me exactly how long each affair had been going on, like he wanted me to know how blind I'd been. I wanted to say something, but the words felt inadequate. Instead, I slid down from the bed, settling beside her on the floor. That's why you keep to yourself, I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. I promised myself I wouldn't be vulnerable like that again. Wouldn't let anyone close enough to. She stopped. To hurt you. To destroy me. Her voice broke on the words. Because that's what he did. He made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. Lightning illuminated the tears on her cheeks. Without thinking, I reached out and wiped them away with my thumb. She leaned into the touch, closing her eyes. I've been terrified of you, she whispered. Of me, of how you make me feel. She opened her eyes, looking directly at me. Of how much I want to trust you. My heart was racing. You can trust me, I know. She smiled sadly. That's what scares me. The space between us felt electric, charged with more than the storm outside. Her hand came up to cover mine where it still rested against her cheek. I haven't let anyone this close since him, she said. I didn't think I could, and now I'm terrified I won't know how to let you go. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. I could see the fear in her eyes, but also something else. Want, hope, the same feelings that had been building in me for days. I leaned closer. She didn't pull away. What if you don't have to? I whispered. Her breath caught. For a moment, we just looked at each other, the air thick with possibility. I could have kissed her. She wanted me too. I could see it in the way her lips parted, the way she tilted toward me. Instead, she pulled back suddenly, panic flashing across her face. I can't. She scrambled to her feet. I'm sorry, I can't. She grabbed her pillow and blanket, heading for the door. Wait, I stood up. Where are you going? She stopped in the doorway, not turning around. Maybe it's time I went back to my room. And just like that, the walls went back up. I stood there in the aftermath of the storm, both outside and between us, wondering if I'd just lost something I never really had. She was gone when I woke up. Her blankets, her pillow, the faint scent of her shampoo. All of it erased from my room like she'd never been there at all. For 3 days, we were strangers again. Worse than strangers. She'd leave for work before I got up, come home after I'd gone to bed. If we crossed paths in the kitchen, she'd give me a polite nod and disappear. The distance was suffocating. I tried knocking on her door the second night. Hey, can we talk? I'm fine, came her muffled voice. Just tired. But I could hear her pacing in there. Restless footsteps until well past midnight. Friday evening, I came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone with tears streaming down her face. What's wrong? I asked, dropping my keys. She wiped her cheeks quickly. Nothing, just work stress. That's not work stress. She stood up, trying to move past me, but I gently caught her arm. Please, I said. Talk to me. For a moment, her composure cracked. Today marks 1 year. 1 year since what? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Since he broke into my apartment. Everything stopped. The room felt like all the air had been sucked out of it. He what? She pulled away from me, wrapping her arms around herself. After I broke up with him. After I changed my number, blocked him everywhere. He found where I lived. Her voice was flat, detached. Used my spare key. I came home from work and found him in my bedroom, going through my things. My hands clenched into fists. Did he hurt you? He said he just wanted to talk. To explain. But I could see it in his eyes, this rage that I dared to leave him. She laughed bitterly. That's when I knew I had to disappear. Started over. Found this place. Is that why you couldn't sleep in your room? Because of the anniversary. She nodded, fresh tears falling. Every sound became him coming back. Every shadow in the corner became him waiting for me. She looked at me then, and the pain in her eyes was devastating. That's why I needed you that first night. Why I couldn't be alone, so why did you leave? The question came out rougher than I intended. Why push me away when you clearly need? Because I'm using you. The words exploded out of her. Don't you see that? I'm broken, and I'm clinging to the first person who showed me kindness. That's not fair to you. That's not. It is. She backed toward the hallway. You deserve better than someone who can't even sleep in her own room. Someone who panics every time she starts to feel something real. What if I don't want better? I called after her. What if I want you? She stopped, her back to me. For a heartbeat, I thought she might turn around, might let me in again. Instead, she whispered, "You don't know what you're saying." Her bedroom door clicked shut between us. I stood there in the kitchen, feeling like I'd just lost the most important thing in my life before I'd even had a chance to understand what it was. That night, I lay in my empty bed listening to her cry through the thin walls, and I realized something that terrified me. I was falling in love with her, and she was determined to make sure I couldn't. The tension is killing me. Do you think she'll let him help her heal? Or will fear win? Let me know what you think happens next, and don't forget to subscribe for the conclusion. I couldn't take it anymore. Saturday morning, I heard her in the kitchen making coffee. Just 1 cup. For a week, she'd been making 2 without thinking. Now she was making 1, and somehow that small detail broke something in me. I walked out there in my pajamas, probably looking like hell. We're going to talk, I said. She didn't look up from her mug. There's nothing to talk about. Bullshit. That got her attention. She turned, surprised by the edge in my voice. You want to pretend nothing happened between us? Fine. But don't lie to yourself about why. I'm not. You're running. I stepped closer. You're so terrified of being hurt again that you'd rather be miserable and alone than take a chance on something real. Her face flushed. You don't understand. Then help me understand. My voice came out louder than I intended. Because this, hiding, avoiding me, pretending we're strangers, this isn't protecting yourself. This is just another kind of prison. Stop. Her voice was sharp. You don't get to analyze me. Someone has to, because you're too scared to be honest with yourself. She slammed her coffee cup down, liquid sloshing over the rim. You want honesty? Fine. I'm terrified of you. Terrified of how much I've started to need you. Terrified that if I let you all the way in, you'll realize I'm too damaged to love. The words hung between us like a challenge. And what if you're not? I asked quietly. What if I am? Her voice cracked. What if I'm so broken that I'll ruin everything good between us? What if I wake up one day and you're tired of my panic attacks and my inability to trust, and what if you don't? She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. What if, I continued, stepping closer, you're stronger than you think? What if healing doesn't mean being perfect? It means finding someone who loves you through the messy parts. You don't love me. She whispered it like a prayer. You can't. We barely know each other. I know you steal my shirts because they make you feel safe. I know you make terrible jokes when you're nervous. I know you cry during commercials with dogs in them. I reached up, wiping away her tears. I know you're brave enough to start over in a new city, with nothing but a suitcase and a dream of being free. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I know you trusted me enough to sleep on my floor when you couldn't trust yourself to be alone. My voice got softer. And I know I've been falling in love with you since that first night. She looked up at me, eyes wide with terror and hope. Don't, she whispered. Please don't say that. Why? Because if you love me, I'll have to love you back. The admission was barely audible, and I'm so scared of what that means. It means you don't have to carry this alone anymore. We stood there in the kitchen, coffee getting cold, both of us on the edge of something that would change everything. "I don't know how to let someone love me," she said finally. "Neither do I admitted. "I've been just as scared as you, just better at hiding it." She looked at me with surprise. "You're scared?" "Terrified. Of messing this up. Of not being enough. Of losing you before I even really have you." For the first time in a week, she almost smiled. "So what do we do?" she asked. "We figure it out together," I said, "if you'll let me." The question was there in the space between us, waiting for her answer. She looked at me for what felt like forever, searching my face for something. Doubt, maybe, or the promise that I'd stay. "I love you too," she whispered finally. "I've been fighting it for weeks, but I love you too." The words hit me like a physical force. Relief, joy, terror, everything at once. "I've never said that to anyone before and meant it," she continued, her voice stronger now. "Not even him. What I felt for him was safe, predictable. This is terrifying." I reached for her hands. They were shaking, but she didn't pull away. "Good terrifying or bad terrifying? Both." She laughed through her tears. "Definitely both." I pulled her closer, and this time she let me. Her arms came up around my neck, and I held her like I'd been wanting to for weeks. "I don't want to sleep on your floor anymore," she mumbled against my shoulder. "Yeah?" She pulled back to look at me, cheeks flushed. "I want to sleep next to you." "If that's okay, that's very okay." She smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen from her in days. "I might have nightmares sometimes. I'll be there. I might panic when things get too intense. I'll wait. I might need to go slow with everything. We have time." Her eyes filled with fresh tears, but these were different. Hopeful. "How are you real?" she whispered. Instead of answering, I kissed her. Soft, gentle, like she was something precious that might break. She melted into me, her hands tangling in my hair, and I realized this was what I'd been looking for my entire life, this feeling of coming home to someone. When we broke apart, she was crying again. "Happy tears," she assured me quickly. "These are happy tears." 3 months later, she moved her things into my room officially. Not because she was afraid to sleep alone, but because she didn't want to. We painted her old room together. Covered the walls where shadows used to lurk with warm yellow paint. She decided to turn it into an office, a place where she could write. She'd started keeping a journal, she told me, writing about healing, about learning to trust again. Some nights, she still woke up from nightmares. But now, instead of facing them alone, she'd curl into my chest and let me hold her until the fear faded. Some days, the panic still hit her out of nowhere. But she'd learned to tell me when it happened, and I'd learned how to help her breathe through it. "You know what the best part is?" she said one evening, curled up against me on our couch. Our couch, because everything was ours now. "What's that?" "I'm not afraid of being happy anymore." She looked up at me, eyes bright. "I used to think happiness was something I had to guard, like it could be taken away at any moment. But with you it feels solid, like something I can actually keep." I kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo that had become as familiar as home. "You can keep it," I promised. "You can keep all of it." Outside, it started to rain, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. "I love thunderstorms again," she said. "And I realize that sometimes the best thing you can offer someone isn't perfection. It's presence. The promise that whatever storms come, they won't have to weather them alone." If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you believe in love that heals, hit that subscribe button, because everyone deserves their own happy ending.